Alright, we are back with another rapid response video, and this comment is coming from Steven Newhall. I've been thinking of how Darkseid himself is this massive threat, but who could be the personal Darkseid of each member of the Justice League? That one villain who is just above and beyond such a threat, fulfilling the same role Darkseid does for the team, and even the entire DCU as a whole. This would be awesome to see you make a video about. Well, I gotcha. Now, how I'm thinking of this is, take for example Darkseid. This is a character who for a long time was pretty much categorized as a Superman villain. But as even more time has gone on, Darkseid's threat is far beyond just being a Superman villain. It is now a Justice League villain. And then it turned into a world scale villain, then a galactic scale villain, and now a universal scale villain. How I'm going to do this is, I know there are 7 characters in the Justice League, but I'm going to take the main 5 characters: Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, and the Flash, and I'm going to go through their rogues galleries, and I'm going to pick my favorites for who could at the very least be a Justice League planet-wide threat. So since we talked about Darkseid there, why not start with Superman? I think there are so many villains who could pose a wider threat to more than just Superman here. Lex Luthor could be one, General Zod could be one, there's even Superboy Prime and Mongol. Now, the first 2 you would think to go with is Darkseid and Brainiac. Now, the biggest problems with those characters is what I was just saying. I think their power has been far too escalated to just be pinned down by one hero. They are universal level threats. So that's why I'm actually going to go with Doomsday as the Justice League planetary wide threat that it would take more than just Superman to take down. Yes, we have the death of Superman. Superman has beaten Doomsday many times over. However, what I'm going to do here is this idea that Doomsday has died and continues to come back, and every time he does come back, he cannot die from that same way prior. This is 100% a situation where Doomsday's kill shot is so hidden and so unknowable that it will take an entire Justice League to figure out how to finally put him down once and for all. I think Doomsday is absolutely a character who could take on 7 Justice League members along with other outside DC characters residing on Earth as well. Doomsday also offers desperation. The fact that the longer you fight him, he's just going to continue to destroy more cities, more countries, more continents. So the longer he fights, which is what really empowers that character, the worse it's going to get. Now let's take a look at Batman. He has a lot of, if you will, street tier level villains, even though Batman all over DC history has done things that clearly prove he's not human and could literally take down super-powered beings with ease if he truly wanted to. The power scaling is very off in comic books, let's be honest, there's no hiding that. However, we've seen a lot of Batman villains over the years not just mess with him, but mess with other characters in the DC universe. Take, for example, the Joker, the one character who probably should not be a Justice League level threat, always finds himself in a situation where he could screw around with the Justice League if he really wanted to. We even have a variation of him and Batman, the Batman Who Laughs. Look how destructive that was. I think there are some really interesting characters that if you really dive deep into who they are and what they're capable of, they could somehow find a way to be huge level threats. People like Hugo Strange or even Scarecrow. We've even seen it with someone like Deathstroke before. I got 2 for Batman. I think the best possible situation here would be someone like Poison Ivy or Clayface. If you look at Clayface, he's probably one of Batman's deadliest villains and might even be a character who would give someone like Superman or Wonder Woman or the Flash a hard time on their own. If you could find a way to double, triple, quadruple Clayface's power, you could make this character super dangerous to the point where you are now dealing with a DCU threat, at least from the perspective of Earth. He could do things like maybe replicate himself, and each of those replications have very similar power levels that the original Clayface has. They can keep on regrowing. No matter how much you splatter the clay, it'll always regrow itself into the shape that it was before. Clayface obviously just needs a reason to become that DCU type threat. And very often, I don't think Clayface is that type of character. I always say he does tend to be a little misunderstood. He is a character who does not want to be in the situation he is in. But if he fully embraced his villainhood, he probably could become super dangerous. And then for Poison Ivy, I think she's actually the best option for Batman villains to become a Justice League planetary threat. She can literally control any nature on the planet. She's even attached to the green. Maybe not as much as Swamp Thing per se, but still a connection to the green is a connection to the green. That's nothing to laugh about. We have seen Poison Ivy in the past mind control someone like Superman. Could you imagine if she found a way to mind control a multiple amount of the Justice League characters? Could you imagine if she simply just got control of Superman and now the Justice League have to go up against her and Clark? That's tough. This is somebody who does not want the world to be envisioned in the way humankind has for it today. No cities, no buildings, no technology. It's ruining the planet. It's ruining her plants. It's ruining Mother Nature. And as we all know, Mother Nature is arguably the most dangerous thing in existence, and she is the catalyst for human nature. And because of that, I think Poison Ivy would have the potential to be one of the most powerful villains that the Justice League and Earth would ever have to go up against. For Wonder Woman, when we look at her rogues gallery, sure, it's not as big as, say, Batman or Superman's, but I think we have a fair share of characters here who could cause some real damage on a planetary scale. But I think, honestly, the best option here is Ares. Ares is a god. He's a threat to Zeus. It's even been said before that in certain iterations, he is far more powerful than Zeus. When you are dealing with a god like that, how is that not planetary level or even a universal level threat, which is what I believe Ares could be. If writers even utilized his power level as the god he truly is, in the same way that new and old gods are used, he could potentially be on the level of a Darkseid. What makes him extremely dangerous too is all he wants over the world is war. He wants man to fight. And the fact that joining in on the fight against Ares is exactly what he wants, and yet the only way to defeat him is to fight. So in a way, it's kind of a win-win for him. Now, when you look at the Flash villains, he arguably has the highest rated, potentially some of the toughest villains that the League would have to go through when you match up his villains to Superman's. There are a lot of heavy hitters here, but even more so, super fast heavy hitters. Once again, there's a ton of option here, and mainly I would be looking at someone like Professor Zoom, who has, I believe, gone up against the League in the past. There's even Godspeed, who I actually was even going to use over Professor Zoom. However, the reason I'm not going to go with any speedster is because very often the speedster villains of the Flash, I tend to find are far more focused on the Flash and the Speed Force themselves. They're not really looking for a fight with the Justice League and any of their concerns. So that's why I think the best character to elevate to a higher status in this situation is Gorilla Grodd. Being a genius level intellect and having the development and the knowledge even past human civilizations is what makes this character a very good fit for a wider threat of the Justice League, the planet, and the DC universe. I think if Grodd really wanted to, he could find a way to uphold some sort of power source that would help him fight someone like Superman or Wonder Woman, because we all remember that really funny moment in the DCAU where Superman flicks him across a football stadium.
You had your chance. Now you can feel the pain. I felt worse.
However, if he was also leading the Gorilla Kingdom, he could implement that power into their bodies as well, which could make them all super strong and at least capable of taking 1, 2, 3, 4 punches against someone like Superman. We would need to upgrade his strength and durability just a little bit. Being a genius, he'd be able to be a great strategist, a great tactician, someone who could go toe-to-toe against Batman in that situation. With his mind controlling abilities, once again like Poison Ivy, if he could find a way to get Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash, even Batman on his side, even if it is for a small period of time, that's still enough to give him an upper hand for some time. Gorilla Grodd really brings in that idea of an overwhelming nation that wants to take over Earth. You could almost treat this like Planet of the Apes. Although in this situation, the gorillas are a little more evil and have much different things in mind than Caesar did. Finally here, I'm going to look at Green Lantern, and once again, this is another character who has a vast amount of villains who haven't even so much been used prioritized to Green Lanterns. They have become universal threats. This was a little hard to choose because Green Lantern villains are of the universe. They're not from Earth, so a lot of these characters are going to be heightened in power. However, we're not going to use Parallax or the Black Hand, and certainly not using Necron, who might be one of the most powerful here. I am going to choose Sinestro or Atrocitus. I find them to be equal. There is really no right or wrong answers between those two characters. Both of them come with the fact that they are, just like Green Lantern, a power of the universe. They are on the emotional spectrum. They deserve to be notified as being super powerful. Both of them also come with other characters who utilize that same power in which they lead. So they both have their own respective armies, no matter how big or small they are. These characters could be used as another General Zod and Man of Steel type situation. They come to Earth, you surrender, and you conform to the law that we give over you. And I think maybe a little more likely to be doing something like that would be Sinestro, since in his own right, he's a little lawful. He does things with purpose, whereas with the Red Lanterns and Atrocitus, it's more just for rage and anger. Establishing Sinestro as a Justice League level threat and a threat to the world would be very interesting for his character, because now you would respect this character for going up against the Justice League and other heroes around the world, instead of just being a character who always goes up against Green Lantern and always gets plot written to lose. So there it is, villains from some of these Justice League characters who I think deserve or could be utilized as threats for a DC universe. Of course, some of these characters we wouldn't want to make them too much like Darkseid to the point where they pretty much lose their place as a person of a rogues gallery and now they become universal threats, but maybe they could be used in special case situations where their power has been elevated for a time being and they can be used in this way. So you guys let me know in the comments below what villains of these characters you think would be great threats for a wider DC universe. And with that being said, I hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and until next time, I'll talk to you all very soon.